Title: The Crowbar and the Car Horn, a Judge Judy story of love, rage. And a school bag. The air in the television studio was thick with a tense, electric silence, a calm so profound it felt like the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for the first spark to ignite a powder keg of long-suppressed emotions and bitter resentments. This was the stage upon which ordinary lives were dissected under the brilliant, unforgiving lights. And into this arena walked three individuals whose story was a tangled web of a failed romance, a shared child, and one fateful afternoon that escalated from a simple, forgotten school bag into a dizzying spectacle of honking horns, a gleaming crowbar, and a man leaping onto a car hood in a fit of primal fury. The formidable Judge Judy presided over it all, her sharp eyes missing nothing, her voice a blade of reason poised to cut through the chaos, and before her stood Emily, the mother, a woman whose posture was a fortress of defensive anger, and David, the father, whose weary demeanor spoke volumes of a man pushed to his absolute limit, while beside Emily sat her staunch ally, her friend Sarah, a silent sentinel in this war of wounded hearts. Judge Judy began, her tone measured yet laced with an authority that commanded the room. Folks, I've read your papers very carefully, and I'm going to outline for you what each of you say happened on this particular date, which was? Emily's voice, tight with the effort of control, cut through the silence. The 23rd of May, she said, and those simple words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of everything that had transpired on that day, a date now forever stained in the memory of everyone involved. Okay, Judge Judy continued, methodically laying out the foundation of their fractured family dynamic. You two have known each other for a very long time, and you have a 6-year-old child together. Each of you enjoys the child's company at various times. I don't know with whom the child lives on a more permanent basis, but sees his father regularly at his father's home. David interjected softly. Sometimes, a single word that hinted at the inconsistent and often contentious nature of their co-parenting arrangement. A relationship built on a foundation of sand that shifted with every argument and every perceived slight. With the precision of a surgeon, Judge Judy delved into the heart of the complaint, painting a picture for the entire court to see. On this particular day, according to your papers, your son had spent some time with his father and left his book bag there. Emily immediately bristled, her body tensing as if physically struck by the inaccuracy. That's wrong, she snapped, a flash of fire in her eyes. But Judge Judy was unmoved, a master navigator steering through a storm of emotions. You tell me, she instructed, and Emily launched into her explanation, a torrent of words meant to justify her actions. Actually, the day before, I was having car problems, and I had called him to get a ride to go pick him up from school. Judge Judy swiftly cut her off, her voice a whip crack of impatience. This is too much information. This is what your problem is. This was the first glimpse into the core issue. A couple who could not communicate without a cascade of blame and extraneous detail. A relationship where every simple request was buried under a mountain of past grievances. Your son left his book bag in his father's car. You went over to his father's home to get the book bag, according to you. Emily confirmed with a tight yes, but the admission was just the beginning of a very strange and dangerous journey. The story Judge Judy then recounted, drawn directly from Emily's own sworn statement, was one of escalating and deliberate provocation. When you got there, you started to honk your horn to let him know you were there. Because you say that he has your number blocked from his phone. Probably because you've annoyed him in the past. The audience murmured, understanding dawning that this was not a simple retrieval mission. It was an act of theater, a performance of frustration, so he wouldn't come out. So, you got out of your car. I'm repeating exactly what you wrote in your complaint. You got out of your car, and from the back of your car you took a crowbar. The word crowbar landed in the courtroom with a chilling metallic thud. This was no ordinary tool. It was an instrument of potential violence, a symbol of fear and aggression. Emily, seeking validation, murmured, And when Judge Judy added, for your own protection, another soft followed, a justification that seemed flimsy and terrifying all at once. A wave of disbelieving laughter rippled through the audience, the absurdity of the situation clashing violently with its underlying danger. Then, Judge Judy continued, her narrative building suspense, you walked up to his car, and Emily interjected, the windows were down, a detail that suggested either opportunity or an unsettling ease of access. Which was on his property, Judge Judy emphasized. firmly establishing the line of trespass that Emily had crossed. And you looked inside, and lo and behold, there was the book bag. But the sequence of events was now becoming muddied, a critical point of contention. Emily tried to correct the timeline. "No, I started honking his horn," she insisted, trying to reshape the story to cast herself in a better light. Judge Judy, however, was a master of the written word, holding the woman to her own account. "The book bag, just a second. The book bag was in the car." "Yes," Emily conceded. "I didn't know it was in the car." This was a crucial admission. If she didn't know the book bag was there, what was the honking for? Was it merely to summon him? To force an interaction he clearly wanted to avoid? The judge, wielding the woman's own complaint like a key, unlocked the contradiction. "But you took the book bag out of the car." "Yes," Emily said again, her voice growing smaller. "The window must have been open, or you opened the door, because you started honking on the horn. What you say, by the way, in your complaint was that you took the book bag out of the car and then you started honking his horn." The trap was sprung. Emily was caught in her own words, her story unraveling under the bright lights of scrutiny. She floundered. "I must have misunderstood myself." A weak defense that prompted one of Judge Judy's most memorable rebukes, a line that would echo in the minds of the viewers. "You didn't misunderstand. That's English. Those are monosyllabic words there." The humiliation was palpable, a flush creeping up Emily's neck as she scrambled. "I'm sorry. I was honking the horn, and then I seen his book bag." But the judge's disbelief was a solid wall. "I don't believe that, because you ultimately took the book bag." The scene was now set for the confrontation. A woman on another person's property. A child's school bag in one hand, a heavy steel crowbar in the other. "What I want to know is," Judge Judy asked with theatrical curiosity, "with which did you honk the horn?" The question highlighted the sheer ridiculousness and the latent violence of the moment. As Emily tried to cling to her revised story, she introduced a new, explosive element to justify her fear. "Well, yeah, and that's when he attacked me," she claimed. But the judge was already moving past the physical altercation to the root cause. "You took the book bag with one hand, and you had the crowbar in the other." The image was stark and unsettling. Emily, now feeling cornered, unleashed her real accusation, a desperate attempt to shift the narrative from her actions to his character. "And the only reason why I had a crowbar is because he has drug addicts in his house. He's a drug addict. And I was scared." This was a nuclear option, a claim designed to poison the well and paint David as a dangerous, unreliable man from whom she needed a weapon to protect herself. Judge Judy, however, was a logician at heart, and she immediately pinpointed the flaw in this reasoning. "Why didn't you have the police go and get the book bag instead of going there, sitting outside, honking his car horn? Why, if you're frightened of him? He's got drug dealers in the house. He has bad people there. Why would you do that? That's not something a normal person does." This was the crushing weight of common sense, and it landed with immense force. Emily's justification crumbled into a pathetic, whining excuse. "I just needed my son's book bag." The spotlight then turned to Emily's support system, her friend Sarah, who had been a silent, stony presence beside her. Judge Judy inquired, "Who do you live with?" And when Emily revealed she lived with just her son, the judge probed further. "Does she have family that lives in the area?" David supplied the answer. "She has her mother that lives 2 blocks from her." A mother just 2 blocks away, a potential ally, a source of reason, a safe escort. What does her mother do? Judge Judy asked. And David's blunt reply, "Nothing," drew a wave of laughter. "Nothing." So she was free to go over and get the book bag. Could have gone over with her mother. The simple, elegant solution to the entire problem hung in the air, making Emily's decision to go alone, armed with a crowbar, seem even more irrational and provocative. Then focusing on Sarah, the judge asked, "She have a sister? Who are you?" "I'm her friend," Sarah stated, her loyalty clear in her defiant tone. "She didn't ask you to go get the book bag, did she?" Judge Judy pressed, and Emily interjected, "I didn't," before being cut off. No, were you with her that day?" "Yes, I was," Sarah confirmed. "Great," Judge Judy exclaimed, the word dripping with sarcastic triumph as another piece of the puzzle fell into place. "Where in the car were you?" "I was in the passenger seat when she got out." So Emily was not even alone. She had a companion, a witness, an accomplice in this escalating drama. Just a second. Why didn't you get out? Judge Judy asked Sarah, who explained, I got out of the car once I seen him running down the steps after us. What do you mean, after us? The judge probed, and Sarah painted a picture of a unified front, after me and her. I got out of the car to make sure that she got the book bag out. And after that, next thing you know, he was running after us. The story was now one of a perceived mob. 2 women against 1 man, though the man claimed he was the one being charged at with a weapon. The core of David's complaint was then laid bare. This is your complaint. Your complaint is that he jumped up on the hood of your car and dented it. That's his complaint. That he kicked your car. Emily eagerly confirmed. He beat my car with his feet. I have the evidence. But Judge Judy had already passed judgment on Emily's role in the drama. She turned to David. You want to tell me what happened, sir? I have little sympathy for you because I think that you were looking for trouble. She paused, letting the words sink in before delivering the hammer blow. A piece of wisdom that would define the case. Looking for trouble. Anybody that gets out of their car with a crowbar is looking for trouble. David, seizing the opportunity to explain his side, began to describe his perspective, mentioning the cameras on his property that had captured her loitering and honking for an extended period. Why would you be honking in the street for 5 minutes? Judge Judy demanded of Emily, her voice rising in exasperation. Don't you know that that bothers people? Emily tried to backtrack. Ma'am, I only honked 2 times. I sat there for 5 minutes before I got out my car. This admission was perhaps even worse. Well, what were you doing just sitting there? The judge asked, her curiosity piqued by this bizarre behavior. Emily's reasons began to multiply, becoming increasingly desperate and convoluted. Because my son's medical records that I needed to fill out for his school were in it. Were in where? In his book bag. You mean they had given them to your son blank at school to have you fill them out? For his doctor to fill out. For his medicine. The logic was falling apart. Go back to school and get a new blank set. Judge Judy offered the simple, obvious solution, the one a rational person would take, especially if they were truly afraid of the other parent's home. His homework was in there, Emily added weakly. Another reason that seemed pitifully small against the backdrop of the chaos she had initiated. The debate over fear continued, with Emily contradicting her own earlier statement. If you're afraid to go to his house because he has drug dealers in his house, Judge Judy began, but Emily, proud and defiant, interrupted. I'm not afraid of anything. This was a catastrophic admission. Well, that's what you said you were. That's why you took out the crowbar, the judge reminded her, pinning her down in her own contradictions. Emily, scrambling, then changed her fear to a different, more generalized threat. I was afraid if 10 women come out trying to jump me. Yeah, I'm gonna have a crowbar in my hand. The image was ludicrous, a fantasy of a gang ambush that had no basis in the evidence presented. Judge Judy's response was a dismissive laugh, a sound that sealed Emily's fate in the court of public opinion. You get nothing, she stated, a preliminary verdict on Emily's credibility. The proceeding then took a deeper dive into the tragicomedy of their ongoing relationship, revealing the toxic ecosystem in which their son was being raised. Judge Judy asked David if they had a formal custody and visitation order. No, ma'am, he replied, explaining, because she's always let me see him without having to go through that process. This informal arrangement, however, was a double-edged sword, giving Emily a power she clearly wielded erratically. When asked if he had seen his son since the incident in May, David's answer was heartbreakingly vague. I see periodically here and there, like she'll drop. Judge Judy urged him to speak up, and he continued, she'll drop him off to my mother, and I'll see him over there and get to see him for short periods of time. But no, I don't get to see him too often. The picture was one of a father being slowly edged out of his son's life, granted only supervised fleeting visits at the whim of the mother. He claimed he paid support faithfully. I give her $300 a month in child support. Plus, I send him groceries, clothes. But Emily was quick to counter. For the first 4 years, he barely paid anything. A statement that prompted Judge Judy to place the blame squarely on Emily for not formalizing the arrangement sooner. The bickering continued, a toxic sludge of accusations about drug charges and family problems, each trying to drag the other down into the mud. Please do me a favor. Separate, Judge Judy commanded, her patience wearing thin. When David tried to retort, she fixed him with a gaze that could freeze fire. "Mr. Ulrich, look at me. If you say one more word to her, I'm gonna get very angry. You don't want to see me angry. I'm an old lady." The tension broke for a moment with David's quick, "I don't," and Judge Judy's wry, "Good, that wasn't the right answer, but I'll take it." Finally, it was David's turn to narrate the climax of the confrontation from his perspective. "Now, I want you to tell me what happened when you saw her outside near your car with a crowbar." David, speaking with the earnestness of a man who felt his world was being invaded, explained, "I don't have much, so I ran out there and I guess a defense protection kind." Judge Judy, needing clarity, barked, "You ran out there and what? Speak up. Do you hear how I'm talking? Do you have any trouble hearing me?" Chastened, he continued, "And she had began screaming and charging at me with a crowbar then. So I jumped over her car just to get away from her, basically." It was a stunning claim. A man so terrified of a woman with a weapon that his only recourse was to vault onto the hood of her car to escape. He further revealed this was not an isolated incident, but part of a week-long campaign of harassment. With Emily and Sarah driving by, honking and causing disturbances, a pattern that made his eventual explosion of frustration somewhat more understandable, if not legally defensible. The physical evidence was then presented. Pictures of Emily's car, but the damage was far more extensive than a few dents on the hood from a man jumping to escape. There were kicks and blows along the side of the vehicle, damage that spoke of rage, not evasion. David openly admitted, "I kicked her car at my mother's house prior to that. I don't know what else to do. I can't just keep letting her do it." This was his tragic confession, a man who felt so powerless, so harassed and so devoid of legal recourse that he resorted to the primal, physical release of kicking metal and glass. "You go to court and you file a case against her," Judge Judy instructed, offering the civilized, proper path he had failed to take. But David's lament, "I can't hit her, so I kick her car to get her to go," laid bare his flawed and desperate logic. Judge Judy was unequivocal. No, listen to me. You said, I don't know what else to do. I'm trying to tell you. You go to court and you say this is what she's doing." She outlined a clear, legal strategy involving cameras and neighbor affidavits, a path of documented harassment that stood in stark contrast to his destructive outbursts. She dismissed Sarah with a scathing, "I am totally unimpressed with. They can't hold their liquor. She can't hold her temper, but you can't kick her car. That's not the way we deal with a problem." David's quiet, "I understand," was a moment of surrender to the court's authority and its clear-eyed logic. In her final ruling, Judge Judy masterfully apportioned blame, acknowledging the provocations while condemning the response. She found that Emily had no legitimate reason to be at David's house that day, and that her overt, hostile acts with the crowbar were a direct catalyst for the incident. She could not, however, forgive David for taking his frustration out on her car. The repair estimate was $3,400, and Judge Judy, in a Solomonic judgment, ordered David to pay only half, $1,700, forcing Emily to bear the financial burden of her own poor choices. Her final words to Emily were a dose of harsh relationship truth served with classic Judge Judy bluntness. "Watch your temper. He doesn't want to be your boyfriend anymore. He's got other girlfriends. Good for him and good for you. You have no reason to drive around in front of his house. You have no reason to be anywhere near him." Emily's final, sputtered attempt to deny her lingering attachment, "I don't want that dude," was met with the judge's devastatingly simple retort, "Well, but you do. I actually believe him 100%. As Emily tried to again label him a drug addict, Judge Judy delivered the ultimate, crushing blow, a lesson for everyone watching. "Well, madam, you picked him." And when Emily weakly protested, 14 years ago, the judge finished her, and the case with flawless, brutal logic. "Well, if you picked him 14 years ago, and if you knew that he was trouble, then it would seem to me that the second dumbest thing you did was have a child with him." With that, judgment was entered for the plaintiff, Emily, but only for $1,700, a partial victory that felt like a defeat for both parties. A costly lesson learned in the most public of arenas. Lesson for the listeners and viewers. The tumultuous and painful saga of Emily and David serves as a powerful cautionary tale for us all. It teaches that when a relationship ends, especially one involving a child, the only path forward is one of civility and legal structure, not harassment and vigilante justice. Allowing pride, anger, and unresolved emotions to dictate your actions leads only to a downward spiral of destruction, financial loss, and emotional trauma that ultimately harms the very child you both love. If you are truly afraid of someone, you involve the police and the courts. You do not arm yourself with a crowbar and confront them. If you are being harassed, you document it and seek a protective order. You do not kick and damage property. There is a system in place designed to handle these exact conflicts, and bypassing that system in favor of dramatic, dangerous, and destructive confrontations helps no one and solves nothing. Let this story be a reminder that the end of a romance does not have to mean the end of reason, and that the well-being of your child must always come before the desire for revenge or the need to have the last furious word.